Well, good evening, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen around the world. It is once again time for the WADcast. This is episode number 60, and I am one of your hosts, Josh, brought to you, as always, with Mr. What's-His-Face over there.
The guy that's always in Facebook jail.
Yeah, the perennial inmate. What's up, fella?
Man. Not much, buddy. How you doing?
Chilling. We're doing this crazy thing on a different day than we usually do.
Yep. And I will take full credit for that. I've been working a lot of overtime in healthcare. So that being the case, I have not had time to really focus my attention on other things. So I have to actually this weekend I had to make time. And I didn't really want you to go solo by yourself on Friday because this is something you and I both talked about, I guess, tag teaming. So,
Yeah.
It's just one of those deals where, yeah, here we are. Today was the earliest I could attend the show, and I have to work again tonight. So, but damn it, all of you people, you mean that much to me. And you know what they say, anticipation increases the appetite.
Is that what they say?
I mean, it doesn't work. It doesn't work for my girlfriend. I mean, it's like I hear that's supposed to be the thing.
Okay.
But it is what it is,
Well, we have quite the show for you tonight. We're going to talk about this crazy little thing called the A-list, and you know what? Some of these actors get paid a lot of money. The question is it worth it?
Absolutely, and that's exactly it. And the thing is, and it's not so black and white with an actor's salary. And we're not talking about the up and coming. We're not talking about the ones that are trying to work their way to the top or anything like that. We're talking about the established actors, the A-list, as Josh put it, celebrities. And it's like how Will Smith was paid. I think he was paid $100 million to come back as Agent J for Men in Black 3. Now it's not like he was offered it up front. I don't believe it was like because Men in Black. It's not like it was like a $500 million film, but his total revenue and everything else, his total profit from the movie was $100 million. But yeah, so it's like you have actors like Robert Downey Jr., who I think was paid like $50 million to reprise his role as Iron Man in the MCU to continue it.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Jeff, we gotta get warmed up here. It's been a minute. Weird things happen when we spend, less than 7 days talking about the next topic. Let's get into it. Let's warm up. Let's before we break it all down. Have you watched anything good lately? How about that? We'll lead off with that.
Have I watched anything good lately? I haven't even been able to. I haven't even had time to really breathe lately. No. The Queen's Gambit. Oh, and Brian says, "Tell Josh thanks for the bio." Shit. Brian, I have my bio. I'll shoot it over to you right now, buddy. See, I've been busy, man. That's just that is how insane my last 3 weeks have been. Oh man. But yeah, so it's just been I guess the Queen's Gambit. It took me 3 weeks to watch all 7 episodes, but I finally wrapped it this past week.
Okay.
And I didn't expect much of the Queen's Gambit. As much as I love playing chess, I adore that game. I thought it was a fascinating show. But
I'm going to go ahead and say you're welcome for the bio, Brian. And I will talk about something that I watched today. I watched Pig. the Nicolas Cage movie that is now the highest received critically in his filmography.
Yeah.
So that it's the highest reviewed movie that he's ever done. Let's see. I've actually gone on. Summer's ending, and pretty soon I'm not going to have a ton of time to watch movies.
Yeah.
Because I got to go back to work, and I don't like it. I'm not a fan of. I mean, I love working. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not ready for it because I never stopped working this summer. Usually, I'm taking some time off and doing my stuff. Well, which is usually nothing, but yeah, I've been acting. I've been doing a ton of writing. I've been producing more podcasts than ever before, and it really doesn't feel like that I've had any time off. And the first day of school is Tuesday, and I already feel like I'm burnt out. It hasn't even started yet.
Yeah. No, I get it.
But so over the last few days, I've been trying to squeeze in as many films as I could to keep up with the momentum of my New Year's resolution to average one movie per day for the year. And I watched Pig. I watched both of the new Jumanji movies. I watched The Suicide Squad. I watched Nobody. I watched The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard. And I watched Spiral. I think I watched The Forever Purge a few days ago.
Spiral. You know what? I watched Spiral a little while back, and it just, I couldn't do it. Could not do it.
Did you see what I posted about it in the movie addiction group?
No.
Okay, basically my short review of it was that, you know what? It was a solid story with a lot of cringe, and Chris Rock's face when he tries to when he's thinking about something like connecting the dots is absolutely hilarious, although unintentionally.
Yeah, no, I noticed that too, because with Chris Rock, I mean, we all know Chris Rock as a comedic genius. I think he's hysterical, and comedians have this way of being able to transition to dramatic roles almost flawlessly. You and I have talked about that, right? I mean, Adam Sandler, Jim Carrey. I mean, hell, Brian, if you're still listening to us right now, buddy. I mean, even you, with seeing how you were in Relish, but watching you in the Briefcase, or even in The Bad Agent, it's how he can actually play very dramatic roles. But I mean, Chris Rock. I don't. I said his face, I don't even know how to describe it, because it was hysterical, but it wasn't meant to be hysterical.
Very true. Very true.
Here we go. Oh, and Brian, real quick, I'm shooting you my bio right now, buddy.
I laughed every time.
Sorry.
That's not to say that his performance was bad, because there was that that walk and talk down the subway that was done in one shot.
Oh yeah.
That was amazing.
Oh yeah, no, there were some awesome shots in it. It just didn't do it for me. And mind you, again, I've said this before, I'm not a fan of sequels. I'm barely a fan of TV shows that have more than one season. Like miniseries, great. Love miniseries.
Invest in time.
Well,
Why?
I mean, if it's a new show, it's one of those deals where it's a gamble because at the rate that shows get canceled, I mean, I remember the last time I got heartbroken by a show, and people make fun of me for this, but it was from the Terminator TV show, the Sarah Connor Chronicles, because I was really into that show, and the cliffhanger was John Connor shooting off into the future, and I'm thinking, oh my god, that's amazing! Like we're going to see what John Connor is like in the future, or whatever. And no, never saw that. Never got any kind of closure from that one.
I feel the same
It hurt,
about My
Josh.
Name is Earl.
Oh yeah, and that one too. Yeah, we never found out. Like we were supposed to find out, like the baby have answers, but they never came.
It's hilarious though. It's a terrible, especially when you spend so much time investing into a bunch of characters and then they just yank the show away.
Oh
But
yeah,
as far as Spiral goes, I will put it out there that the ending is, I thought it was so pitch perfect. It was so eloquent. I liked it a lot. Everything else was kind of, it's what it is. It's a detective / Saw movie, whatever.
are we going to spoil the ending?
No, because I think it's still fairly new enough to where we shouldn't have to break it down, especially when that's not what tonight's episode's about. We
okay.
should talk about though that, as you said before, Chris Rock is a star.
Yep. Nice transition.
Thank you. And when it comes to something like Spiral, I'm let's see. I'm just gonna go ahead and look up the box office numbers real quick. It has a $15.8 million take in the US, 6.7 internationally, for a box office total of 22.5
million. What was the budget on it?
Let's see. Oh, now it has a global box office of 38.3. Budget real quick. Spiral. Doing research. Budget 20 million. So it made its money back.
Barely.
It
wasn't exactly a box office success. It was kind of like a box office. Oh, okay. Well, I got a scratch off for $20, and I won. I won 20. Like I won $30. So they really won like $10 there. But I mean, the thing is, like, I mean, mind you, Saw. I'm conflicted because with Saw, and I know this is not the point of the of our episode tonight, but with Saw, the one that cost the least to make should have been the only one because it was the best one. Everything after that to me was just torture porn. I like horror films and I don't mind gore, but I mean, honestly, like the story was all there in Saw 1. At the very least, I should have stopped it after Saw 3, and then that. And I've said that before on the show, and I'll always stick by that. But either way, yeah. So, does it say anything about Chris Rock's salary? Because I can't imagine it being like a very high salary, especially since he produced it. He did a lot to make that happen. I would imagine that he would sacrifice a large chunk of what he would get paid just to make that movie a possibility.
Well, let's see. Open the secret as I'm reading this all out loud. I'm not really seeing anything for his money. But again, if I'm not mistaken, he's the one that produced it. Basically got it made, and I imagine he took most of his money off the back end.
Yeah.
Now, Sam Jackson, on the other hand, this guy is the second highest grossing actor, as far as his films go. It seems like when he shows up, you're pretty much guaranteed to make some money, right?
Well, everyone just wants to hear him yell.
It's fair. But he also winds up in a lot of things that you'd never expect to see him in.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, he's in quite a few really good movies. He's in and honestly, I've got to say his brief appearance in Deep Blue Sea, where you think he's going to be like the brains that's going to save everybody, and then, out of nowhere, he did. But even like in the other guys, he got paid a decent amount of money for the other guys, and him and The Rock both. And they were in it for all of just really the opening scenes of it before they jumped off a building to their death. But no, there's a lot of reasons. The more I looked into things this past the past week with the time I had, there are reasons as to why actors are paid, like the top level actors are paid so much money. There's multiple reasons. The biggest one is pretty much there are a lot of people that are willing to pay them that much. They want them in their projects. Whether it's a commercial or whatever else.
Well, that's an interesting thing to bring up because, yeah, actors get paid a lot of money for, top celebrities get paid a lot of money for things like commercials, as well as, of course, movies and TV shows. And the number one reason I think to pay somebody that kind of money is to get eyes on your project, right?
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't always necessarily turn into ticket sales. Especially if you're a commercial, you're not exactly, quantifying their part the way you would, say, a film. You would hope for an uptick in business, but it's hardly a one-to-one between the two things. Now, the funny thing is, I have here a list of the highest grossing movies of all time, right?
Okay.
And you would think the highest grossing movies would have the biggest stars. Right?
Now, are you talking about highest grossing movies as far as made the most, or made the most in comparison to their budget?
Made the most.
Okay.
So, number one, because they happen to reclaim their title with another re-release, Avatar. Now,
yeah, that whole petty thing. I remember all that. They re-released it just so they could get it back up there, being that what was it? Avengers Endgame, I think, beat them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
Now, would you say that Avatar? Honestly, I haven't seen Avatar, but would you say Avatar was a movie that was driven by star power, or was it driven by effects?
I would say it was driven by more just like the special effects. Like, I mean, it was a beautiful film, but I mean, Sam Worthington was not a well-known name. I think he might have done. I think Clash of the. I don't remember if it was Avatar or Clash of the Titans came out. I don't remember which one came out first, but he wasn't really a big name. Zoe Saldana, she was kind of known. Sigourney Weaver was the biggest name attached to that film, with a few other people involved. But just honestly, if you've never seen Avatar, just go watch Pocahontas. It's about the same thing. It's just Pocahontas on another planet with a different species where, you know, a human kind of makes whoopee with the other species and stays. But I would say it was like, yeah, sorry for that. I would say it was more of like a special effects driven thing. Like I said, it was a beautiful film. It was a cool story. I'm not going to knock the story. James Cameron is a visionary, and he's a very prolific director. But looking back on it, it wasn't anything overly special to me.
It's a story that we've seen told many times. Ferngully, Dances with Wolves, Pocahontas, whatever you want to, paint it as. It's something that's been done before, and it certainly wasn't exactly the sole reason for the box office that it got. I think the visual effects are what drove that film to be what it was. People watched it, and then they watched it again and watched it again. It was, from what I understand, very mind-blowing at the time, and that's fine.
Yeah.
I think the biggest name attached to it was probably James Cameron. People wanted to see a James Cameron visual spectacular, especially after, coming off of what Titanic was before that.
Think so. Probably. I think. Yeah. I'm not too sure. Titanic was what, like 97, 98, I think.
Something like that.
Avatar was 2010 or 11.
2009.
Is that when it came out?
Yeah. 2009.
My lord. It cracks me up. Like Stephen Lang. First off, I love Stephen Lang. That man is straight up talent right there. I adore that man's acting. And between Avatar, Don't Breathe, I mean, I think he's fantastic. But what cracks me up is there was an interview recently where he says, like, oh, yeah, I wept when I read the Avatar 5 script. We're like, well, it's like, Mr. Cameron, could you please stop writing out your movies and just start making them? Like, take a cue from George Lucas and the original Holy Trilogy.
And make 3 of them and tell people you have more?
Yeah, just lie. Yeah, I've got everything planned out.
Star Wars comes out. Hey, do you have any more of these movies? Yeah, I got at least 2 more, maybe 5 more. Really? Can we get them made? I'm sure we could make the next couple, no problem. But the next ones, they're so technologically advanced. I'm not sure if we can really do it. So I'm gonna need another box of wine. I mean, another
15 years, and we'll get around to episode 1. And then we'll need about 10 more years after we wrap up part 3. Oh wait, okay, 10 years later. Oh, Disney is okay.
You mean I don't have to pretend I already wrote these anymore?
Oh man.
So number 2 on the highest grossing films of all time is, of course, Avengers Endgame. And the difference between the two movies at number 1 and number 2 is so small that you can imagine Endgame's going to take the record once again once they find any sort of excuse at all to re-release it. But the biggest difference between Avatar and Endgame is Endgame, Avengers Endgame, did have a ton of big names. Here's the thing, though. The vast majority of the big names are big names because of those roles. And I know Robert Downey Jr., Scarlett Johansson, all of them were already something before any Avengers role.
Yeah.
But Robert Downey Jr. was on we'll say a little bit of a lull, right? Before he became Marvel's, bad boy Tony Stark, he was Hollywood's bad boy Robert Downey Jr., the guy that might wake up on your couch.
It's not funny, but it's, oh man.
And Scarlett Johansson, popular, young actress. Everybody was somebody. Sam Jackson was somebody, but after Avengers, they became household names for everybody.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying the Avengers created these people, because like I just mentioned, that is not the case. But they this might sound like a hot take, but I don't think they were the reason specifically why it became the second highest grossing movie of all time. If they replaced all of the actors for some reason, yeah, it would have hurt box office sales, because it would be insane. But I think at that point in time, after so many years of building up this very specific story, it was more the draw of the story. It was the Marvel brand that put butts in seats more so than the individual actors themselves.
Yeah.
It's a really weird situation where you maybe can't exactly say whether your investment in the actors was a good return on investment. I mean, it's the second highest grossing movie of all time. So, no, you're not going to say, could we have done something different? No, you're not going to say that, because the results speak for themselves. But I think forgive the expression here, but the paradigm has kind of shifted. It seems like people aren't exactly lining up to watch their favorite actors in movies anymore. Yeah. People love Ryan Reynolds. People love Sam Jackson. Hitman's Bodyguard's wife. I don't see it really moving any meters. I don't see it topping any lists. As far as money.
Is that out now?
Guys, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't see it doing these things. And the fact that you had to ask, is it out? Yes.
Yeah.
So it seems like when people want to go to the theater, now that in a lot of cases they can, they're going to see movies with characters that they love more so than specifically actors.
Yeah, but I mean, if you come off of like the franchises or like anything Marvel related, like where like people flock to the theaters to see the Marvel films, Star
Mhm.
Wars films, anything like Star Wars related, people go absolute ape shit over it. But if you look at things like with certain actors, okay, like now there are different things that go into how actors make their money. So you have to say like, okay, well, is this actor worth it? Jack Nicholson made a killing through his contractual deals, and that's another part that people don't think of. Contracts and negotiations. Jack Nicholson, when he played the Joker, negotiated with the studio for I forget how much he made up front or during production to play the
Like
role.
6 million.
But was it 6 million? But I mean, but he also negotiated top billing, which is why you see his name before Michael Keaton's name on the posters. Uh, but then he also had a percentage of the not just the gross, but with the merchandising. So he made a killing through his pay and like involvement in Batman 1989 through that alone. But you have people like Emma Stone, who she's not exactly like she's not a nobody by any means, but for her involvement with what was it, La La Land with Ryan Gosling, she was paid $26 million for that role. That's a pretty pretty big thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, like that's a lot of money. And it's just like it's not like I don't think she had like back end deals. I think with her, like that's what she was offered for that role, just in general. Um, but like you have people like Ryan Reynolds, Adam Sandler made a killing through Netflix alone. I think he made like a couple $100 million through his deals with Netflix.
Oh yeah,
Um,
he killed it.
but it's like then on top of that, you have to think. Even look at Dwayne Johnson. When he helms something, like he has a lot of like what was it, Black Adam. He is a big reason why Black Adam is coming to life. Um, but with him, he's making a lot of money, but there's also lots of checks that he has to write out as well. And then on top of that, when these people make so much money, there's also they're in a higher tax bracket as well. So I mean, like what they're making isn't exactly what they're making. Like they're making like a percentage of that because a chunk of it's going to the to Uncle Sam. But you have a lot of people like what was the one I was looking at earlier? I think it was Arnold Schwarzenegger in Terminator 3. Um, I think what do you call it? He got paid. Let me here. I have the notes here.
29 and a quarter
29
million.
point. Yeah, $29.25 million for a pay or play fee, which he would make regardless of whether or not the movie was made. Like, it's a pretty damn good deal. Hey, we can't make the movie. I won't be back. Okay, Arnold, here's your $29 million. You're missing $250,000. Oh, here you go, Arnold. Thank you. He just like walks out and Um, but you have a lot of these people, like they make a lot of money. Does it say who the highest? Is it The Rock that made the most money?
The Rock is currently the highest paid actor in
Oh,
Hollywood.
steadily paid. Okay. Yeah, because I mean, like, well, some of with Will Smith
Okay.
earlier. Because I remember. Oh, go ahead.
Now, if you look at the stream, you'll see him. Maybe if he shows up, we'll get some of that. So
No, but with Will Smith with Men in Black 3, because of his negotiations and everything else, his performance-based pay for Men in Black 3, he ended up getting like $100 million of its overall gross, which I think I wrote down was 624,000. No, 600. Yeah, 624,000. $624 million. So I mean, like So I mean, like going back to the question though, are these actors worth it? Like, well, I mean, Will Smith didn't get paid nearly that much for Men in Black One. You know,
No.
and Will Smith, I mean, like as he got older, more experienced, and more seasoned, he started taking on more challenging roles. Um, I think his first big breakout, like big screen role, was Independence Day, if I'm not mistaken. Um, which then led into Men in Black, Wild Wild West, and he started getting more and more things. To where now he can pretty much just like say what he wants to make. You don't question Will Smith's contract you negotiated, but he's going to tell you what he requires.
But when it comes to the highest earning actors for like singular roles, a lot of this comes from movies that were made, several years ago before the Marvel thing really started taking over, before franchises became the top of the box office, pretty much. Before the highest grossing films of all time were all, I mean, let's face it, looking at the top 10, Avatar, that's going to be a franchise eventually, from what I understand.
Someday.
Avengers, Titanic. Was there anybody big at Titanic? Was there anybody that's like, yeah, Leonardo DiCaprio? He was known for what, Basketball Diaries and Growing Pains. So,
I mean, you had what was it? You had oh God,
Kathy Bates is the unsinkable Molly Brown.
Kathy Bates was in it. You had Kate Winslet. Kate Winslet wasn't anybody yet. That's right. She was still pretty new to the field herself.
Billy Zane was the guy from Back to the Future.
Back to the Future.
Yeah, it's one of Biff's, buddies.
Was he?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
God. It always comes down to Back to the Future with you. You know that?
It does. Everything always comes back down to Back to the Future. I was watching Nobody, and I was like, "Oh, Christopher Lloyd, awesome!"
Yeah, I know. When I saw him, I was like, "Man, Doc Brown got old."
He did, but he looks amazing.
Hey, he's still a badass.
But
the true Uncle Fester.
But then after Titanic, you have Star Wars, Avengers, Jurassic, Lion King. I'm not going to say it's so much a franchise as much as a movie. And then, what do they call it? A live action remake? That doesn't make any sense. It's still a cartoon.
What's that?
But The Lion King.
You know what? I have my reservations about that movie. And it's only because of the fact that I don't like being lied to. It's not live action. Danielle asked me a long time ago, like, why it annoys me so much. I didn't want to tell her. She pulled it out of me. And I told her, like, because I know it's not live action. She's like, well, they look they look pretty good. Like, it looks like it's live action. Like, it looks, but there's one thing, aside from them speaking English and moving their mouths in ways that are unnatural, there's one big thing to me that tells me that it's not trained animals doing this. She's like, what's that? I was like, there's no buttholes or genitalia. And that was the longest pause and silent, judgmental stare I've ever gotten from that woman. I didn't want to tell her. I didn't want to say anything. Just wanted to enjoy the movie. But she just noticed this disdain on my face. Not like I'm actually looking forward to seeing that on the screen, like flopping around from my face, but it's just like that's just how I knew it wasn't real. I looked. But you know what? I don't regret it, Josh.
I do believe I'm doing a pretty good reproduction of the look on her face right now.
But you know what? I said this in the movie group that we're members of on Facebook, and I thought I would get more of a judgmental
Oh, I'm
reception.
judging.
No, I'm saying I thought I would get more of a judgmental reception from the people on the movie addiction group on Facebook.
Uh-huh.
And actually, a lot of people sided with me on that. I'm like, yeah, I noticed that too. I'm like, oh, thank God.
So it wasn't the singing and dancing that threw you off as much as there were no
lion logs or anything like that anywhere.
the talking
And,
itself was like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
But the fact that there were no chocolate starfish on.
God.
Uh-huh.
And you know what? I know my mom's not listening tonight because she would have already chimed in on that one. Oh my God, Brandon. Well, you know what, Mom, you raised me. But
Let me speak for your mother. Oh my God, Brandon.
You know what? I don't regret any of my thoughts or views or even saying that. I've had a long 2.5 weeks right now. I'm blowing off steam in the most fun way I can think of outside of writing.
I'm just glad that we can't get thrown into Facebook jail for this show.
No, but fun fact, I am still under restriction right now. I'm on probation from Facebook jail. I cannot post anything live. So thank God you take care of all that in for the WADcast, because if it was on me, it would not be able to happen for another 60 days. I think it's time to just go ahead.
Putting out hate speech against dolls.
Oh, yeah. If you see a little possessed demon good guys doll coming towards you with a butcher knife or whatever's, don't kick it. Hug it. And hope to God he returns that affection.
But if I may continue.
Go ahead.
We have more Avengers movies. Furious 7 is in the top 10. Frozen 2. More Avengers. Harry Potter. Star Wars. More Jurassic Park. Disney Pixar. Fast and Furious. It's all a lot of the same, if not movies, but franchises and studios. None of these has the appearance of being a star-driven film.
Yeah, well, I mean, mind you, with Harry Potter, I mean, the first 2 movies, you had a few prolific actors that were in them until the kids became of age and were the ones that really were the selling point of the movie, of the franchise. You know, what's his face? Kid that played Harry Potter. Well, I can't say kid because he's like a grown-ass man now, but that's it. You know, these kids were nobodies. They didn't have anything to their name. They had the ones that did. They didn't have much because they were kids. But you had the actor who played Dumbledore, who was very prolific on stage and screen for decades. Of course, you had John Cleese just making like a guest appearance basically in the movie as like one of the ghosts.
Nearly Headless Nick.
But yep. But but there were actors. Hagrid, I forgot his name's on the tip of my tongue, but he's been around for decades. I mean, you have actors that are well known. But it's just, I mean, it just comes down to the fact that, once the kids really sold the audiences, now little kids went to go see Harry Potter for the kids. They don't know these more prolific actors, but from a studio point of perspective, you have these big names. There's multiple entries in this series, novel-wise, so of course there's longevity should it be successful. But but then as the kids got older, But the thing is, like, of course, like, I mean, they started carrying the series, and these kids are now worth a ton of money. Daniel Radcliffe has kind of gone the way of Nicolas Cage.
No,
He's been a whole bunch of. Hey, I'm not knocking Nick Cage. I think Nick Cage is brilliant, and I will say he's also very brave with his career. He actually, granted, maybe his tax problems have kind of made him just like have to take certain roles.
Like every role that comes his way.
Hey, you know what? I don't care. Willy's Wonderland was brilliant.
Yes, and so was Pig.
Pig, I still have to watch that. But Daniel Radcliffe.
Have you seen for every Willy's Wonderland, right? And for every Pig, there is also these movies that he makes that aren't those.
Like,
let's see. I'm gonna pull this up real quick because I don't want to accidentally name a good movie in this example.
Well, you have the movie with the Rapture. I forget the name of it. It's based off the Kirk Cameron movie. That's it. That movie was horrible.
Yeah. And
Wicker Man.
I think that
Snake
was
Eyes.
Those were definitely pre-IRS issues.
No, Wicker Man was Wicker Man was just bad to begin with anyway. Like, I mean, it was just Nicolas Cage is you know what? Willy's Wonder, I have not seen Pig, so I cannot comment on that movie yet. It looks good. It looks like, man, it's like John Wick for a homeless guy with a pig. But it's been a while since we've had Nicolas Cage from City of Angels or The Family Man.
Let's see. How many movies has he been in since, say, 2010? He did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in 2011, 3 in 2013, 4 in 2014, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in 2016.
Always pay your taxes, kids.
6 in 2017. It's 5 in 2018.
Oh my God!
And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in 2019. Yeah, he's
like
been
I said,
doing a lot of work.
Like I said, kids, always pay your taxes. Oh man, but it's like, but going back to the topic of the show, like, are actors worth the insane amount of money that they make? There are actors that will, like, and mind you, like, there's also a certain level, and Brian actually introduced me to this. If there's a like with the budget, there are actors that will actually take a certain pay level in accordance to what the budget is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are, like, I think, what was that movie? Waiting, with Ryan Reynolds, Justin Long, and Dane Cook, and all those actors. A lot of them took a severe pay cuts to be in that movie because the budget for that movie was not that much. It wasn't exactly like a shoestring budget, but I think it was like around like it was well below $10 million. It was a fairly low budget feature length film. But then, even then, like, as we spoke about last week with the salaries and everything else with the Animal Crackers movie, Scott got these people involved with this movie, and like all A-list actors, and a lot of them got paid like a fraction of what they would actually, get paid.
See, Waiting had a budget of $3 million.
Waiting?
Yeah.
Okay. So now if you take into account like the crew, set design, catering, and everything else, because it took place in a restaurant, I'm not too sure if they used the restaurant to cook their own lunch. But But it's just, I mean, all the extras, because there was that dinner rush scene. Um, but there was a lot that went into that movie. So the fact that they got that done for $3 million, along with distribution, and it is still considered a fan favorite, or I think it was considered at the time, it was like the modern, it was like a modern version, like it was Clerks for a modern audience, I think.
Yeah, that's fair. One
And
of
then
those,
Clerks 2
if
came out
you're
the
in
next
the
year.
business, if you're in that industry, you relate to it hardcore.
Yeah. And then Clerks 2 took that title back by coming out the year afterwards. But
Yeah, Clerks for the new Clerks.
yeah. But I mean, the thing is, like, so you have these actors. Now, would I say Robert? Like, there was a big thing that went about with, who was it? I think it was James Gunn that said that like, was it James Gunn or was it J.J. Abrams? Somebody said that anyone could have played Iron Man. It was a big thing this week.
I must have missed that.
Okay. And to an extent, I believe that is true. Anyone can play Iron Man. Any person could play Iron Man. Could they do what Robert Downey Jr. did? No, I don't think so. What Robert Downey Jr. brought to the table, just in the cave scene alone, like he went through things, like talking about like what he did in prison. He attributed like his playing a prisoner in that movie to what it was like being a prisoner, like, in real life. And very few people could do what Robert Downey Jr. did. That man destroyed his career. He was uninsurable. And even after filming Gothica, where he accidentally broke Halle Berry's arm, like, just, it's not like he did like in a drunken rage or he was coked up when he did it. It was an accident. Accidents happen. But his career was still like not where it could have been. So that right there could have ruined him. But he played Iron Man and Tony Stark, and he just Phoenix Rise, basically. Like, I mean, it was like rose from the ashes of a dead career. Like, he just completely went above and beyond. So is he worth the money that Disney wanted to throw at him to reprise his role as Iron Man when he was already out of contract? Well, you bet your ass. Because at that point, it was whatever he wanted, because Disney needed him more than he needed them. Like, his career was already relaunched.
But at the same time, just because Robert Downey Jr. is in a movie doesn't mean it's going to sell tickets.
No, just because Robert Downey Jr. is in the movie doesn't mean he's going to sell tickets. But Iron Man was in the movie. Robert Downey Jr. made a character that was never, like, I guess kind of at one point was a popular character way back when, but in recent decades was kind of like just like a side character somewhere. He took that character, and because of how he portrayed, both Tony Stark and Iron Man, he made that character like the main face of the MCU, all the way up until the point where Tony Stark sacrificed at the end of Endgame. Spoilers: he dies. Had people in theaters in tears. Like, me and Danielle came out of that movie theater, and she was staring at me, crying and everything else, and it looked like I dumped her in the middle of the movie. Thankfully, there were a few other people whose significant others were walking out with them that were also staring at them and sobbing hysterically, so I didn't look that bad.
A lot of breakups happened that day.
Yeah. Babe, it's just a movie. You're single.
By the way, before we continue, let's all just take a moment, just a singular moment, to thank Jon Favreau. Because without him, the MCU would not be a thing.
And without him, we would not have The Mandalorian.
He did a great
You know
job
what?
putting together Iron Man, and he's the reason why we have what we have in the MCU. He set the bar. He set the tone.
I take back what I said about James Cameron. Jon Favreau is the visionary. Yeah, Kevin Feige was the yes and no man, but you know what? Jon Favreau was the talent. So
everybody send Jon Favreau a thank you card if you love the MCU.
And if you see him walking down the street in Hollywood, hug him and say thank you and walk away.
And maybe touch his butt a little bit.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
I'm kidding. Don't touch his butt.
God. What I'm talking about is already considered assault. Now you just moved up to sexual assault. Ladies and gentlemen, do not assault nor sexually assault Jon Favreau, okay? Just thank him and walk away. But God. Oh man.
But to go back to the question, the argument at hand, people paid money to see Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean that people are going to pay money to see Robert Downey Jr. as anything else.
Well, yeah. Look at what was it?
Doolittle.
Yeah, Doolittle. That movie flopped. It wasn't great. I really said to that thing. Well, it's art. It's subjective. But the thing is still, it didn't do well. It didn't perform well. Mm-mm. His salary was still pretty high for that movie. So
because
was he
people
worth
thought they'd be able to draw with Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, but I mean that's the thing. Like I mean, certain things it works, but it has to work in the confines of a franchise, in my opinion. Because I mean, Pirates of the Caribbean is nothing without Jack Sparrow. He has become the mascot of the series. Iron Man became the mascot and the connecting factor to the MCU, at least like the first few phases until the culmination of the ending of Infinity War, of Endgame.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, it's like he was like at the end, even at the end of the Incredible Hulk. That was a different studio. That wasn't Marvel. That was I think what was it? Universal, I think. Universal.
Right.
All right. So it was owned by a different studio, but what? Tony Stark showed up at the end of the Incredible Hulk to talk to Thunderbolt Ross. So he was like the mascot of Robert Downey Jr. was the mascot of the series, and he was also the connecting factor to Spider-Man, another exterior owned property. So. But then it also showed, there was such a heavy presence of Iron Man and Spider-Man Far From Home. I'm curious how often he gets mentioned in the new one. Stark Tech is a big part of Spider-Man's suit in the series, in the movies.
Yeah.
So I'm curious how often he's going to get mentioned in this one too. But the thing is going back at it, Johnny Depp made an astronomical amount of money for his participation in the 5 entries of the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. So in those instances, in a franchise form, yes, I think your actor, if he's the mainstay of the franchise, is worth every penny that you can spare to get them on board to reprise their role. They may be exhausted, but you know what? They're actors. Not to discount their exhaustion. I mean, I get exhaustion. It sucks. And to do the same thing over and over again with acting, you're only getting older. You want to explore more roles. Remember when I wanted to be an actor, when I acted in a bunch of things, I was only getting older and I was aging out of things I was auditioning for. But it's like one of those deals where if you're the mascot, you look at Robert Downey Jr. in 2008 when he played Tony Stark for the first time, and you look at him in 2019, I think, when it was 2019 when it came out, Endgame. You look at him in that, and it's like, wow, he has. And I know that it takes place 5 years in the future, Endgame, but still, Hugh Jackman as Wolverine started off when he was, I think, 31, 32 years old playing Wolverine. When he was done, he was 50 years old. Or pushing 50. But for other things, like, if Robert Downey Jr. in The Judge with Robert Duvall, I think Robert Duvall would be enough to sell that movie. Robert Downey Jr., yeah, he was good in it, but I think anyone could have played him in The Judge. He did a great job in that role. Did a fantastic job in that role. I don't think it'd be the same without him, but I think anyone could play that character.
So let me ask you this.
What?
You have, say you're a filmmaker.
Okay. I pretend.
I'm a
filmmaker. I'm a filmmaker.
And
all right, what about it? I'm going to add an ish. I'm going to add an ish to the end of that. I'm a filmmaker ish. But go ahead.
Fine, don't play pretend. No wonder you weren't such a good actor.
I also get camera shy, but go ahead.
Okay, so you're a filmmaker and you have X amount of dollars.
Okay.
You can put somebody in your movie for, let's say their asking rate is $25 million.
Okay.
Or you can find somebody that is just as good for the role, but not so well known.
Listen, you're asking the wrong person because I actually like that Great Value cereal, okay? Not quite the same thing, but it's comparable to the thing it's based on. So
and what basically what I'm asking is, you have a chance to either be a feather in somebody famous's cap or launch somebody with this role. Would you rather launch somebody or, be a feather?
Yeah, I'm not going to be a notch on someone else's belt, okay? I'll go with someone unknown. No, I think that honestly with me, I think it's more rewarding to work with people that are absolutely no one. I've worked on film sets and I've met some big name talents. And 9 times out of 10, yes, the people I've actually interacted with and met, I could talk to and have a conversation with. And they're really down to earth, really cool people. Just want to be regular people with cooler jobs, I guess, that pay a lot more. Then you have that 1 out of 10 that is just so high and mighty. I would rather work with, and like even then, like there's a lot of A-list talent that would rather work with new directors. They like working with new directors because they're usually much more open to suggestions from the actors. So,
well, I guess that answers that question then, doesn't it?
I guess it does. Yeah, it's just to me, it's more. I don't think that actors are worth tens of millions of dollars for a single movie that is not intended to be a franchise. I don't think it's worth it. I don't see the point behind it. Like I honestly, I do not see how some movies are made that cost millions of dollars. I mean, you have Waiting that costs $3 million. It kind of stands the test of time. It like the message still transfers onto today. With like customer service, how horrible some people are to waiters and bartenders. That relationship that you have in restaurants. I used to be a waiter. I remember what that was like. I used to bartend. I remember what that was like. But it's just one of those deals where that still holds up today from what I see in that industry. Clerks 2. Those movies, Clerks 2, I think cost like $4 million to make. If that's. But it still holds up. Now, I can understand movies costing like a few $1 million to make now, but I cannot understand a big budget movie that takes place in pretty much like maybe 1 or 2 locations just because you have to get these big name actors. Like directors, sure, I get it. Directors, you have prolific directors, you have prolific actors, editors, composing, all that stuff. But there are some movies that there's a lot of movies that I've watched that I'm thinking, I don't see why this should cost so much money. Knives Out, I love Knives Out. I thought it was amazing. I don't see how it costs anywhere near as much as it did to make, outside of actors' fees. Effects-heavy movies like The Matrix, I get it.
Knives Out had a budget of $40 million.
Yeah, it's a lot of money for a film that takes place in one location. Well, mostly in one location.
Well, there are a lot of locations in Knives Out.
Yeah, but it mainly takes place around that house, though.
Mostly, yes.
That's what I'm saying. Most of the movie takes place in that one location. There are other locations. There's plenty of them. But most of it takes place in that one location. But now, okay, I told you that I was, everyone listening, I had talked to Josh. I was looking into some things, and I found out that if I were to travel to Florida, I live in Los Angeles. If I were to travel to Florida, film permits in Duval County, in Jacksonville, cost nothing. Absolutely nothing. You just have to have insurance. And I was telling Josh, a hurricane party. I have houses left and right that I have friends that live in them. There are family owned. I have a lot of contacts and connections to restaurants, bars, and everything else. That I remember Lynch's Irish Pub in Jacksonville Beach. They offered to let me film something in there way back when, and I did. All they asked is that I wait till the bar closed, and the owner and one of the bartenders would stick around so I could shoot just a quick little 5-minute sketch. And that's what we did. I slid them, I think, $200 just to keep the lights on for a little bit. You can't do that in Los Angeles. There's no way in hell you're doing that out here. But yeah, it was, so it was going down to a place like Florida, I think also location has a large part to do with it. How much are actors getting paid? What's the concept? Avatar, I get why Avatar costs so much damn money. First off, that is James Cameron's, baby. It's his, I don't know how realistic a franchise is ever going to be, considering the fact that, James Cameron is getting older. But, it's been, 10 years since the first one. Sam Worthington, I can't imagine how much he's going to get paid because, Sam Worthington hasn't exactly gone on to become a household name like everyone thought he was going to be.
Since the first Avatar, 10 years?
Yeah. He's done a couple things, but he's not a household name. He's not a big A-list hardcore celebrity. He was in a couple things: Clash of the Titans, Wrath of the Titans, Man on the Ledge, Terminator, Salvation. But he hasn't really the first Avatar, but he hasn't really been in really all that much of I guess when it comes to big budget box office releases.
Mm-hmm.
So
are we going to answer the question? No. I was actually wondering if I could find a breakdown of certain movies' budgets, how much of the Knives Out budget was allocated for cast, because it's a pretty big, as they used to say, it's a star-studded cast.
Oh yeah,
because you got Daniel Craig, you got Chris Evans, Ana de Armas, Jamie Lee Curtis, Michael Shannon, Don Johnson, Toni Collette. Christopher
Don Johnson was in.
These aren't exactly, your Joe Schmoes from down the street. There's a lot of acting power here, and I imagine that would account for a better bit of the budget. Unless, of course, it was one of those situations where, an actor's I'll forego my standard minimum, and because I love the script so much, I just want to be a part of this project. I will take, whether it's scale or just a scaled back salary of something they're used to. I don't think anybody. I mean, let's talk Chris Evans real quick. Chris Evans, other than the Marvel movies as Captain America, just we'll forget everything before Captain America, right?
Okay.
Because it's irrelevant. Human Torch. What was not another teen movie?
We'll just his big breakout role. Oh God, Captain America in a whipped cream bikini.
Other than Captain America, there are only 2 movies that I can think of him being in. The first being Snowpiercer, and the other being Knives Out.
Yeah.
But compared to what he makes on a Marvel movie, I don't think either one of those films are going to be offering him his Marvel fee. So how do you scale what you make from a major motion picture, a major blockbuster film, where you are an integral piece to the story? How do you scale that down to just a regular movie anymore?
Well, I mean, like I would assume, like, the budget negotiations and everything else, like, know what the budget entails and where the finances in the budget are being allocated to, and what they are permitting for, like, the cast alone. Not, and mind you, for everyone listening here, you do not just focus the budget solely on the lead. You have to worry about extras. You have to worry about, like, background extras that talk. You have to focus about, like, are there severe weather conditions that these extras are going to be in? Everything is a line item per person. So with that, like, I mean, I would assume, like, they would just, like, figure out, okay, well, this is how much you have. Like, so do you think that this is how much you could afford to pay me? And then, okay, you can't pay me that much, so how about I cut my salary down to this, and in return, maybe I can just have 5% off of the overall gross of the film.
Mm-hmm.
There's ample ways to negotiate that. There's tons of ways. Like, I mean, it's like, so, I mean, those are things I would imagine would be things that you would have to say to someone like Chris Evans, Robert Downey Jr., Johnny Depp, all of them. Because, mind you, Johnny Depp was also in the 2 Kevin Smith entries from his podcast brand with Tusk and Yoga Hosers. So he was that inspector. He returned as his character that he was in 21 Jump Street for 22 Jump Street. So no, it was 21 Jump Street, right? Like, that's when he made his reappearance, when he was killed. 21 Jump Street. He didn't get paid that much for that role either. So yeah, spoiler from like a 2011 movie. But if you have not watched Jump Street in the last 10 years, I'm sorry.
But I was about to watch it. Damn you.
If anything, it's like a very, very small part, and well, it's not like he was barely in the movie. He was in the movie. He was there throughout the movie. You just didn't know it was him. But yeah, like, I would imagine, like, the negotiations is a huge part, because again, Jack Nicholson, $6 million for Batman 1989, but because of his agreements for the gross and for merchandising, he walked away with like $50 million for that role.
Right.
So I believe that still comes down to, like, to this day, I believe that even comes down to, like, DVD sales. So if I'm not mistaken, he still makes money off that movie today. Not much, but some. But yeah, like, I mean, you have, like, what was it with Scream? You had a whole bunch of no names outside of Nev Campbell and a handful of other people, Drew Barrymore, who was used to sell the movie. They used the hell out of Drew Barrymore to promote the movie.
Oh yeah.
She was in it for like 5 minutes. But yeah, like I mean, it's like it really just it comes down to that. Like Drew Barrymore, like if she's only in it for 5 minutes and they're using her to promote the whole damn movie, I think she's worth whatever she's willing, whatever she's asking for, so long as it's not like ludicrous. Because I mean, honestly, she was the big selling point. Drew Barrymore was hot as shit back then. She was like a big name, like, and she still is. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. But she had some weight. Nev Campbell was right there next to her. Big 90s, heartthrob for boys everywhere from Party of Five. Skeet Ulrich was not that big of a name. Matthew Lillard wasn't a big name. He had Yeah, pre-Scooby-Doo.
Post
pre-Scooby-Doo, post-Hackers. But yeah, I mean, it's like that's really what I would imagine. Like, and that's now if the actor is negotiating in any format, if he or she's negotiating with gross merchandising, whatever, and they walk away with like tens of millions of dollars, you know what? Go them. Yes, they're worth every ounce of that because they negotiated that.
Merchandising.
But yeah, I mean, so my answer to our very much danced around question for the episode is yes, I think actors are worth it. In a franchise, they're worth what they are offered. Especially someone like Robert Downey Jr., Johnny Depp, Keanu Reeves. Because Keanu Reeves with another franchise like John Wick, yeah, he's worth what he's making. But it's one of those deals. Like, I mean, you have to take care of the lead star and the lead supporting cast. But when it comes to like a solo film and everything else, a solo flick, then no, I think that I think there should be negotiations, and if they make a lot of money on the back end of the deal, then go them. That's awesome. Scarlett Johansson didn't make that much money from Under the Skin. I don't think she made that much money from The Jungle Book. But as Scarlett Johansson, as Black Widow, she's worth every penny she makes because she's Scarlett Johansson in her own way. She's kind of a badass. So she may have a stunt double, but she still does a lot of active things in those movies.
I think what we learned here today is that we won't say that actors aren't worth the money. If you can afford them, get them, right?
Yep.
It'll get eyes on your project. Whether or not that translates to ticket sales, that's a different thing, but at least people will talk about it. But on the other hand, when it comes to you have a standalone project and somebody's like, we want $40 million for our appearance.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe you go with a cheaper option, depending on what your ultimate goal is. Because if we've tried to teach anybody anything here at the WADcast, it's not always about dollars and cents when it comes to your projects. Yes, it's nice to make a tidy profit, but when you see individuals put out a lackluster and maybe even bomb-worthy film, say a director and an actor that get together and produce a flop.
Yeah.
And the thing that ultimately comes from that collaboration is a friendship. You know what? That's too much of a word. a working relationship, and you have two people that are now willing, they're networked, and they're like, let's do something, except let's do something good this time. And that could be a signifier for future success and ultimately the big win in the long run. Because I can't imagine, especially when it comes to directing, that there are a lot of directors that, you know, make their first movie and it's a huge hit, right? But we'll say Judd Apatow. I think this is a good example. Judd Apatow. Maybe not the biggest hit ever when he started directing. But you know what? Connections were made, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. But I think, like, you know, and again, that's how the industry works, though. It is all about connecting, mingling, getting to know people, meeting people, not being a dick. Like, actually, like, you know, making friends in the industry. That's how jobs are created. That's how jobs are furthered.
Good. You said it better than I could because I am tired.
Now I'm right there with you. And I, like I said, I gotta go back to work tonight. But no, it's like the thing is you go to events. Like, okay, we have our project in a film festival right now. The film festival will be taking place in September. Whether or not I am, whether or not like our project is a winner, I still intend to go to this film festival. Like, I'm still going to attend it. I'm still going to shake hands, meet people, say hi. If it is someplace, if it's going to be held someplace public, I've got to look back. I've got to look it back up and see if it's going to be held a place where people can actually go and attend this award ceremony. Because I believe that you and I are still in the running with this, correct?
Yeah, we haven't been disqualified yet.
Yay! So, and we'll find out like if we even make anything on the 16th. But so I know that the actual like contest itself takes place in the ceremony of it takes place in September, and it's here in Hollywood. So I will gladly go to this and meet people, say hi. You know, that is how we have our bad agent Simon. That's how we have Brian. Mark met him at a festival, and Mark recommended him to me.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are 2 years later, trying to get this up off the ground as an actual, like, you know, whatever. But divulge way too much information right now. But either way, like that is how. Huh?
Nothing.
Yeah. Call me Tom Holland. But no, it's like the thing is like it's all about mingling. It's all about shaking hands, making friendships, like, you know, just like getting to know other people. Like, I'm very thankful for everyone I've met in the industry. You know, I mean, it's like some people have not really been like, you know, haven't really had a whole lot of substance, but they were great lessons. You and I know one very well.
Mm-hmm.
But then other people have been great sources to have. And yeah, that's how everything works. I mean, like, and once you get those connections, then you can get those people that normally have very, very high salaries and get them to do it for you know, not as much as that. So, but either way, so I think that we have definitely covered a lot of ground here, despite our trailing off periodically.
That's what we do.
I know. Or it's like a bunch of like Alzheimer's patients just like having a conversation most of our episodes.
Oh,
I don't feel bad about that. No, it's not. No, it's not.
Well, then why don't you tell everybody where to find you on social media so they can respond to that Alzheimer's comment?
So you can.
Well, that was convenient. Brandon, we lost you. Okay, well,
Here I am.
yeah, there you were.
Sorry, somehow my phone turned off. No, but no, you can find me on Instagram on bjacksman82. You can also find the WADcast on Instagram at the WADcast. It's a black picture with a white banner that says WADcast in it. I don't use my Twitter. I'm horrible at Twitter. But when I do use the Twitter once a year, it is, I think, You Can't Ground Me? I think that's what it is. I'm not too sure. But that's pretty much it. My Facebook is my Facebook. You'll see me sharing our stuff. So that's my Facebook page. I don't really accept many friend requests. I've got lots of them pending. But yeah, that's where you can find me. Josh, how about you?
Well, as always, you can find me on Twitter at SkidComic or at Simicore Studios or at WADcastPod. And if you go to Facebook to do the facebook.com/WADcast, as it's seen on the screen, don't forget to give it a like. Same goes for facebook.com/Simicore Studios. Give it a like. That way you know when we go live each and every time a podcast goes on the air. If you want to wear some stuff with logos on it from us, there's the address right there on the screen, tpublic.com/user/Simicore. You can get all the latest, greatest WADcast apparel there. And if you feel like doing something on a more regular basis, say donating $1 a month, $1. There it is, patreon.com/Simicore. That way, we can do stuff like fix my webcam or replace it. That will be where I guess I send you. I'm not happy being a shill for myself, but you know what? Things are getting a little pricey. Things need to get replaced, and every little thing that gets added to the coffers goes directly to helping improve the things that we do here. So if you find it in your heart and to find $4 a month, that would be super. And there are, of course, other options for more with varying tiers of rewards programs, I guess. But it's all there on the Patreon page if you want to give it an old look-see. In the meantime, I guess this has been the WADcast, Writers, Actors, Director Podcast, episode number 60. We've done it 60 times now, Brandon. Yes, we have, Josh. So with that, I will send us out with our final thoughts. There it is, right there, final thoughts. Remember, boys and girls, the only thing standing between you and your dreams is you. The only thing left to do is to do it. If you're a writer, write your thing. If you're an actor, go out and act. Go to Craigslist, find an acting job. Doesn't matter how big or small. You're not going to start off making hundreds or tens of millions of dollars. Sometimes you just got to show up and make $10 for a day. But at least you're getting on your way. You're pursuing the thing that you love. The only way to fail is to never do it. Otherwise, the future is wide open. The only thing you have to do is get off your butt and go get it. Once again, everybody, thank you for joining us this week on the WADcast. I've been Josh. That's Brandon. I hope everybody has a wonderful week, and hopefully we'll be back on our usual time, Friday, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, right here on the WADcast Facebook page. Good night.